You know, next season, I see a couple players breaking out. In no particular order, I have 6 players who I am predicting to break out next year, whether that's on offense or defense. The first person we are going to talk about is Adoree Jackson. He's the number 3 corner for the Titans. He has started 39 games out of 43 in his career as the cornerback 3 for the Titans, behind Malcolm Butler and Logan Ryan. He's young. I think he's 25, and he's going to turn 25. And in his career, he only has 2 picks. But when you have Kevin Byard, Malcolm Butler, and Logan Ryan on that defense, getting interceptions may not be the easiest. He has allowed a good amount of completions. 2018 and 2019, he allowed 65 completions and then 36. Keep in mind, last year he only started 10 games and played in 11. And he has allowed 831 yards in 2018, 395 in 2019. His completion percentages are 56.5 and 66.7. I can only find data about the last 2 years. I can't find it about 2017. And as a kick returner, he's been good. You know, he hasn't done a ton kick returning. He hasn't gotten a touchdown. His longest is 46 on a kick return, 57 on a punt return. But, I mean, he's wicked fast. That's what you need from him. That's what they drafted him for. He's a fast corner who can play good defense on people. But he's allowed a good amount of completions so far. I feel like now that he's the cornerback 2, he'll be able to show how good he actually is. I think that he'll have a lot more opportunities this year. I think he'll get more picks. And I'm not predicting him for a Pro Bowl. All these guys I'm not really predicting for a Pro Bowl. I'm predicting them to be better than they were in the past year or couple of years. A couple of these guys will be second-year players. And basically, I just think with just him and Malcolm Butler, I think he'll do a lot better. And obviously Kevin Byard still, because he'll probably be targeted more. He may allow a good amount of completions, but also maybe not. Maybe next year, I think he'll do great. I don't think he'll allow those completions that he has before. In 65 divided by 6, that's around 3. That's around like 4. That's 4 completions a game in 2018. Then last year it was about 3 point something. I mean, like, a lot of corners when they're young, they don't do the best. And he also allowed 7 total touchdowns in his career, with the average yards per target at 7.2 and 7.3, yards per completion 12.8 and 11. In the playoffs, he hasn't done much, if at all. He's only started 5 total playoff games, and in those games, he really hasn't done anything. You know, he had 5 pass deflections last year. He even fumbled in the playoffs once in 2017. But I mean, as a cornerback 2, I think he'll be great for the Titans. I don't think he can really be a cornerback 1, but guarding the second best guy, I think he'll be fine. I think he'll do good. He's fast enough to keep up with those speedy receivers like Tyreek Hill, as Malcolm Butler is not. And then he has Kevin Byard watching over him at the top. So yeah, next year I think he'll do great. Honestly, I think he'll prove not to be a bad first-round pick, and next year he's going to do good for the Titans. Secondly, I have Ronald Jones. Now, if you watched my video yesterday, I said he wasn't that good. But the reason I think he'll have a breakout year is because he's the only capable running back on the Buccaneers right now. Last year, he had 724 yards on 4.2 yards per attempt, 172 attempts, 6 touchdowns, receiving at 31 catches, 309 yards, and no touchdowns. And he fumbled 3 times. I mean, that's not good. The fumbles are not good. But if you're the only running back on a team, I don't think there's any way that, like, you can do bad for that team. I mean, we've seen it before, but especially now that they have Tom Brady, they'll be airing out a lot. Teams will expect him to pass more with Bruce Arians as the coach. And last year he only started 9 games. So if you get that man for 16 games starting, I think the things he could do are great. We'll see how talented he really is. I guess that really depends. I guess that's really like the factor of whether he'll do good or not. But I think he's not bad. I just think yesterday I didn't say he was. I said he wasn't good because, I mean, he hasn't done much in his 2-year career. He's been the backup. Maybe the reason he's the backup is because he just wasn't as good as the other guys on the roster. But like Peyton Barber, who's just bad at football. 203 touches last year. That's a good amount, honestly. And he did pretty good with them. He had over 1,000 scrimmage yards, 6 touchdowns. His longest run was 49 yards. He had 34 first down rushes. And, yeah, he had 12 first down receptions, 41 for his longest reception. He only missed 9 of his targets. Like, he only didn't catch 9 of them. So that's pretty good, honestly. I think he could be a good versatile back next year. But we'll just have to see how he does, I guess, with the Buccaneers. Their offensive line's great. They'll have a good passing game. Also, last year he had 309 yards before contact and 415 yards after contact. Those are both pretty good numbers. I feel like with that offense, the amount of people in it that can air it out downfield, he'll be good in the receiving game. I don't think he'll have to do much. I don't think he'll get the ball a ton. I can see like 200 carries. I mean, that's a good amount. But I don't see him getting really like 20 touches per game. I could, but think about it. So 200 carries, that means to get 20 touches per game, he'd have to get, not even close to 20 touches a game, because he'd have to get like 120 receptions, and that just is impossible. It's not impossible, but you have to be really talented like a Christian McCaffrey to do that. But yeah, so next year with a good offensive line, a great offense around him, a good defense, I feel like they'll be using him to run out the clock because I feel like they'll be up most games. Maybe Dare Ogunbowale. I know who he is, just a hard name to pronounce. Maybe he'll do good for them instead, but I think Ronald Jones will be the better running back. I feel like Dare Ogunbowale will be the better receiving back. But in general, I feel like Ronald Jones get the majority of his carries, of the carries on the team. And I feel like he'll put up like at least 900 yards, 7 touchdowns, something like that. Like 4.4 yards per carry, something like that. I'm not predicting his stats. I shouldn't be, but because you never know what's going to happen. Maybe he'll get hurt, knock on wood, but I don't know. I feel like next year with that great Buccaneers offense, the talent around him, the good defense, he'll be running out the clock a lot, like I said before. He'll do good for the Buccaneers. And thirdly, we have Kyler Murray. He had a good rookie season. He had, 3,700 yards, 20 touchdowns, 12 interceptions. He had 544 yards rushing, 4 touchdowns on 93 attempts. They added DeAndre Hopkins, and now they have a stable running back because when they were relying on David Johnson, he was just hurt. So then they had to go to their backups, and then they traded for Kenyon Drake at the trade deadline. Now that they have Kenyon Drake as their full-time starter on I believe it was the transition tag they got him on for the 1 year, they haven't signed him to anything long yet. I feel like next year they'll win more games than 5. They went 5-10-1. Obviously that's not great, but their defense was atrocious. He was sacked 48 times, which is a good amount. That's what could hold him back. His defense and the amount of times he gets sacked, that's the only thing that I can see holding Kyler Murray back next year because he has Hopkins, Kirk, Larry Fitzgerald. They also have Kenyon Drake out of the backfield, like I said. So as a whole, I feel like he has a lot of people to throw to. Not really a good tight end group, but his best tight end last year was Ricky Seals-Jones, and he made him look kind of good. Not great, but he didn't look awful. But besides that, man, Kyler Murray, if his offensive line can block for him, maybe his defense can pick it up a little bit. I could see him going 8-8 maybe as a team. Obviously, he has to play the 49ers, Rams, and Seahawks, all 3 good teams, even though the Rams are the worst out of those 3. They're all 3 potential playoff teams. Also, by the way, just because I didn't put a team in my Super Bowl chance to make the Super Bowl doesn't mean they can't make the playoffs. It's like the Rams could still make the playoffs. The Cardinals could even make the playoffs. They could go 9-7. I see them going anywhere from 7-9 to 10-6, because you know how impactful DeAndre Hopkins can be. Now that they have a running back that they can see maybe as their franchise running back over David Johnson, who they trade away. Who knows? Maybe they go on and win 9 or 10 games next year, because Isaiah Simmons was also added on the defense. That's a huge help. And, maybe they have some of their corners have a good year, like second-year player Byron Murphy. Maybe he'll come out and do great for them. Pat Pete, we already know is good, but I feel like he's going to get traded. Maybe Robert Alford will do good for him. There's safeties. They got Budda Baker, who I had on my NFL 25-and-under team. They got Chris Banjo, who isn't great. They have Jalen Thompson, who is only in his second year. We'll have to see how he does for them. And they also drafted an offensive tackle in the 3rd round. It was Josh Jones. Maybe he'll be a good franchise offensive tackle for them. you never know. They didn't have a second round pick because that's what they traded for Hopkins. I mean, the Bill O'Brien, good job. But yeah, I mean, I feel like Kyler Murray, with his new weapons, his new running back, or not new running back, but like his stable running back and stable running back group as a whole, I feel like the only thing keeping them down on offense is the offensive line and lack of a tight end. But when you have 3 wide receivers, 1 Hall of Famer, my personal best wide receiver in the league in DeAndre Hopkins. Yes, I think he's better than Michael Thomas. And then Christian Kirk, a great receiver. He's young, he's fast, he can run routes, he has good hands. I don't see the issue with him. Obviously, Larry Fitzgerald's old. Maybe Larry Fitzgerald falls off a bit. We'll have to see. But I don't know. Larry Fitzgerald's been consistent throughout his career. The later years of his career, he hasn't always had 1,000 or like 90 receptions. But still, that's not what you need from him now. All you need from him to do is be a veteran leader in the locker room, help out the other receivers, and still produce on the field. Maybe not like he used to, obviously, because he's not as fast. He still has his great hands. He's still a good route runner, but yeah, I don't think he'll be able to create the same separation as he's been used to doing. Obviously, he's still good, but not going to be Larry Fitzgerald of the past. And, he had a quarterback rating of 87.4. That's pretty good. Just, like I said, to conclude Kyler Murray, only thing that can hold him back next year, sacks and defense. Our next one is Drew Lock. He went 4-1 last year in 5 games, 1,020 yards, 7 touchdowns, 3 picks. His longest pass was 48 yards, and he had a quarterback rating 89.7. He had 5 sacks in 5 games. That's good. That's good. That's pretty good. Besides Garrett Bowles not being a good left tackle, as he was thought to be when he brought his baby on the stage at the draft, you could see that being an issue for him. Maybe he does get sacked a lot more than 1 per game. He will be, but I don't know. Maybe the rest of the offensive line will pick it up. They don't have the best offensive line group, but maybe they'll get better as a team. Maybe Garrett Bowles has a breakout year. But in Drew Lock, they have Cortland Sutton. They just drafted Jerry Jeudy. They have Noah Fant. They have KJ Hamler. They have Deshaun Hamilton, who they drafted last year. And then they have Melvin Gordon, Philip Lindsay, and Royce Freeman, one of the most talented running back trios in the league. I don't see a way that he can fail. I mean, maybe his defense holds him back a little bit. They have a great defensive line, good linebackers, just their secondary. It's not that good anymore. I mean, Justin Simmons, sure. They have A.J. Boye, who's getting kind of old, and they have Bryce Callahan as their 2 starters. But besides that, they got Isaac Yiadom, Michael O.J. Mudia, and then Duke Dawson Jr. Who knows, maybe they'll be good for him. But, I mean, when you went from Chris Harris, Aqib Talib, who obviously are getting old now, to those guys, kind of a drop-off. Justin Simmons, like I just said, is good, but he's not great. But he's definitely, he's a very good safety. But he's not, I wouldn't call him top 5 or anything like that. We'll just have to see how the rest of the defense does. And for Drew Lock to be bad, I feel like it can only be on his part. Maybe they won't win a ton of games. Maybe they'll go like 8-8 or something like that. But I also did put them in my Super Bowl contenders for sleepers. So I think they'll make the playoffs. I don't think they'll go 8-8. I feel like they'll go like 9-7. Not win the division, obviously, because the Chiefs are there. But I feel like they can come in second in that division. Good offense, good defense. I don't know. I can't see any way that Drew Lock does bad next year. He put up good numbers in those 5 games. He won 4 of them. He didn't take really any sacks. He's good in the pocket. He had 2 game-winning drives in 5 games last year with 1 comeback. I don't see any way that he has a sophomore slump, especially only playing 5 games. And I can literally only see a jump for him. He'll be a good quarterback for the Broncos for the future. I feel like he'll be their franchise quarterback. Again, with those receivers, that tight end, and the great running backs to take pressure off of them if needed at the end of games and all that, and just throughout the whole game, setting up the play-action pass. I feel like he'll just do great for the Broncos next year with the ability to do that play-action pass offense with those 2 good running backs and 1 all-right one. Royce Freeman's a good backup, but I don't know. I feel like for him to do bad next year has to be his fault, no one else's. Next, second to last, we have Darius Slayton. He's the wide receiver 2 on the Giants. I guess I could do Darius Slayton / Daniel Jones, but I'm just going to talk about Darius Slayton. He has a second-year quarterback in Daniel Jones, like I just said. I feel like he'll do good for them. He had 48 receptions, 740 yards, and 8 touchdowns on 84 targets. Pretty sure he only had like 2 drops. Yeah, 2 drops, which is 2.4 percentage for drops. I mean, he was explosive for them last year. When Golden Tate was out for a little bit with that suspension, he did good for him. You know, with the loss of OBJ, it's hard to make up for that. But I feel like Darius Slayton obviously won't be OBJ for the Giants, but he'll be something near it. He'll probably put up I feel like he'll put up like 1,100 yards, 10 touchdowns next year. Just the way that he only started 9 games last year and 14 games that he played. If he started all 14 of those, he had 740. 740 divided by 9 games that he started. What's that? That's 82 yards per game that he started. But 740 divided by 14 is like 52.5. I mean, 52.9. There's no way that Darius Slayton can do worse next year. I feel like he can only do better, especially with Golden Tate on the other side. Golden Tate's a proven wide receiver in this league. You know, Darius Slayton is fast. He's a good route runner. He has good hands. Like I said, he only dropped 2 balls and 84 targets. That's pretty good. 9 games started, 740 yards. I don't think you can expect that from a rookie. If he started all of his games that he played, think of how many yards he would have had. Think of the good stats he would have had. I mean, obviously, it's not all about stats. It's about the skill actually on the field. But he has the skill. It's been proven. He's explosive. He had a bunch of big plays for the Giants. Daniel Jones can also help him make those big plays because he has a good arm, whether it's accuracy or strength-wise. I mean, Daniel Jones is going to be their franchise quarterback. I don't care what anyone says. Danny Dimes is legit. You know, like, I don't see anything wrong with Darius Slayton. He's a great wide receiver, too. I could see him being in a wide receiver 1 for them. That's how good he is to me. Darius Slayton's going to be great next year, okay? I don't care what anyone says. He's going to get more targets. He's going to start every game. And he's going to have a lot more yards and touchdowns. Like, that's a breakout player to me. If you're with number 2 target on a team, only started 9 games, 740 yards, 8 touchdowns, that's almost a touchdown per game that you started. And then 14 total games. Think about those 5 games he didn't start. What do you think he did? He probably didn't do a lot. I mean, obviously, I don't know which games he started and which he didn't, because I don't have that up, and it'd be hard to tell. But for him to do all that in 9 games is just crazy. I mean, Daniel Jones, a rookie quarterback who did good for them, he was a good rookie. He was a good rookie. He was fun to watch, not Gardner Minshew type of fun to watch, but you know what I mean. And I could have put Gardner on this list too, but I don't think he'll do amazing next year. But yeah, Darius Slayton, I feel like he'll be a Pro Bowler next year. I feel like he's the only player in this list I could see being a Pro Bowler next year besides Kyler Murray, who I didn't mention that I think he could be a Pro Bowler, but I think he will be. And lastly, we have Quinnen Williams. People think he's a bust. He was drafted to be a pass rusher and a run stopper, but he had 2 sacks with how many QB pressures? 11 and 3 QB knockdowns, 2.5 sacks with like 28 tackles, 4 for loss. He did good in the run game last year, though. I'll give you that. He plugged up holes being a big body. He only started 9 games out of 13, but that's just because he wasn't putting up the production that the Jets wanted. Obviously, he didn't have a good rookie year. You know, he didn't. I'll admit that. He did not have a good rookie year. But for him, next year to do great, what he needs to do is just become a better run stuffer, which he already is a good one, and just a average pass rusher at defensive tackle. I mean, we need, from a 3rd overall pick, we need to see more than 2.5 sacks. I feel like he'll do it just because I feel like a lot of people, especially defensive linemen, don't do great the rookie year. I mean, last year we had Max Crosby and Nick Bosa do great. Nick Bosa was almost Defensive Player of the Year through the first half of the season, just the way he was impacting the game for the 49ers. But Quinnen Williams was a pick right after Bosa, and to see him compared to Nick Bosa, and then we're not even going to talk about Clellant Ferrell. That guy's awful. I mean, he could do good, but I don't know. I don't think he's good. Like, for him to only get 2.5 sacks as a 3rd overall pick is just bad. He played like a Vince Wilfork, which is good, but like a stop and shop. No, like a charity Vince Wilfork. I don't know how else to put that. But for him to do good next year, he needs to get to the quarterback, get more pressures. He doesn't even have to put up a bunch of sacks. He just has to put up a bunch of pressures. Kind of like Clowney, you know, except different positions. But if he just puts up a good amount of pressures, that'd be cool. If he gets the sacks, that'd be cool. Obviously, I don't want them to be against the Patriots or the Dolphins because those are my 2 favorite teams. But also, if he stops the run, gets more tackles for loss, I feel like all he can do from here is just go up, you know. Only thing he can do is just get better at the game. Obviously, he's like, bless you, thank you. But besides that, besides him being a comedian, basically, I don't see him being a great player next year. I see him being a good one. All he can do is just take up the trenches, a section of the trenches down at the line, and plug up holes, get the occasional sack. I see him getting like 5 to 6 sacks next year, which obviously still isn't amazing from a third overall pick. But hey, sometimes people are drafted too early. I mean, he was seen coming out of school as like a great just defensive player in general. So if he's only a run stuffer, I mean, that'd be disappointing, but I don't know. I feel like he'll do good in the pass rush game next year. Just the way that he'll be going into his second year, he'll learn a lot more. The game will slow down for him, and he'll figure out how to like actually get by people. Obviously, he's not fast because he's heavy and big in general, and just a defensive tackle. But to conclude, I feel like Quinnen Williams will pick it up next year in general. You know, he did only have 5 QB hurries, though, which means they threw the ball earlier than intended. So, I mean, that's not great. He played 512 snaps and only get 2.5 sacks in those 512 snaps. It's not good. The Jets are definitely disappointed with him so far, but I feel like there's no signs pointing to him having a bad year like he did his rookie year. He obviously will never be a defensive player of the year type of player, at least in my opinion. And for Quinnen Williams to pick it up next year, that'd be great to watch. Third overall pick up his career after a poor rookie year. Seeing him do good in the run game again, seeing him be a better pass rusher than he was last year, it'd be a lot of fun to see him do good. To recap, we have Adoree Jackson, Ronald Jones II, Kyler Murray, Drew Lock, and Darius Slayton, and Quinnen Williams. Thank you guys for watching. Leave a like down below, leave a comment down below, and subscribe for more.